Hi, we're going to discuss the different types of variables that you might find in a data set. So basically, the easiest way to think about variable types is that we can divide them into categorical or numeric, and then the categorical variables are further divided into nominal or ordinal, and the numeric variables are further divided into continuous and discrete. And we're going to step through each of these one by one. So a categorical variable is one that is not characterized by a numeric quantity. So sex, breed, region, and so on. You may also see it referred to as a qualitative variable because it is qualitative variables refers to the fact that they're words rather than numbers. And it's important to note that even though these variables don't have a numeric quantity like sex or breed, it is not at all uncommon in a data set to find that the variables are entered in a numeric way. And what I mean by that is you might open a data set and find that sex has been coded as 2 if they're male and 1 if they're female. Okay, so even though the variable underneath it is categorical, what you will find in a lot of cases is that it's entered numerically, and you just need to be alert to that because the software itself doesn't know that that numeric variable should be treated as if it was categorical. And you may well ask, if that is a problem, why on earth would anyone ever enter them as a number? And the reason is somewhat historic in that the software packages used to really struggle with text strings of any kind, and it was problematic. But there is a more practical reason, which is that it's really easy to make a typo. So let's say, for example, you're writing different breeds of dogs, and in one case you write the breed with a capital B, and later on you write it with a lowercase b. So in one place boxer is written with a capital B, and later it's written with a lowercase b. Well, as far as the software is concerned, they will be two different dog breeds. Less difficult or less problematic is to enter them as numbers because you don't make those sorts of mistakes. So moving down this flow chart, we think about categorical variables. They could have no natural order, so the N is nominal and that means no natural order. So region, so in other words, Waikato is not intrinsically better or worse than Southland. The sex, males are not intrinsically better than females, neutered versus unneutered, and so on. So you get the idea. Anything where there isn't a natural order. And in contrast, you have a variable called an ordinal variable, and that is one where there is a natural order. And sort of the trick I use here is there is an order. Ordinal starts with O. So when we're talking ordinal, we're talking order. And what you might find is disease severity, for example, if you measured it on a multi-point scale, could be considered ordinal. Parity could be considered numeric, but it also could be considered as a categorical variable with orders, so a 0 parity, a 1 parity, a 2 parity. And whether you treat it as categorical or numeric depends somewhat on the distribution in the data set. Okay, so if we move on now to introduce just one more little sort of terminology involved with categorical variables, and that's a dichotomous or a Boolean variable. Now they sound like they're really fancy names. All they mean is a categorical variable that has only two levels. So disease, not disease, case, control, yes, no. So a lot of what we see in epidemiology is in fact categorical variables that are dichotomous or Boolean, because we're often case control, disease, not. Okay. All right. So numeric variables, moving on. They are anything that you can count or measure, and you'll often see them called a quantitative variable as well. And they could be continuous, so it's a numeric value variable that has an uninterrupted range of values. So for example, your body weight can range from a low of say 50 kgs all the way up to 150, and it could be any part number in there. In contrast, we have something called a discrete variable, and that's when the values can only be whole numbers. We might also see them called integers. All right, and an example would be a cell count. You can only have a whole number of cells. You can only have 3 children, you can't have 2.3 children, so litter size would be an equivalent. Okay, so just to do a quick rehash, we have categorical variables, and those are things for which we can't count them. Okay, they can have no order, in which case they're called nominal. They could have a natural order, in which case they're called ordinal. And then we also have something in there which is called dichotomous or Boolean, and that simply means it's a categorical variable with 2 levels. Okay, moving on, we would have a numeric, and we will often divide them into continuous and discrete. A continuous is when you can have decimal points, so you can have 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 versus discrete where they have to be whole numbers. Okay, and it's important to be able to know what type of variable you have, because that will determine how you handle it when you do your later analyses. Okay, so right now I'd like you to pause and apply some of the thinking that we've got here to a scenario in which you want to know if the body condition score of sows is associated with the number of pigs per litter. To do this, you record the body condition score at mating on a 9-point scale and collect data on the number of piglets born per litter. What sort of variables are the number of piglets per litter and body condition score?